I'm Eli, 29, and I've always been the quiet one in my family. Not shy, just quieter. Less flashy than my older brother Matt, less needy than my younger sister Chloe, and way less dramatic than either of my parents. My mom, Cynthia, runs on attention like it's oxygen. My dad, Rick, is the kind of man who thinks he's the king of the castle just because he yells the loudest. Over the years, I got used to playing the role of background character in my own family, the dependable one they leaned on when it was convenient, ignored when it wasn't. But I never expected to be erased so deliberately, not until the night of the party. It started 3 months ago. My mom had this idea for a massive anniversary celebration. 35 years together, she said over our usual dry Sunday dinner. We want to go big. No church basement nonsense. We're thinking garden venue, live music, white tent, everything. My dad chimed in, waving his fork like he was conducting an orchestra. We'll make it classy. Champagne, not beer. No kids screaming everywhere. It sounded like a wedding. But it wasn't just their idea, it quickly became mine to fund. I don't talk much about money with my family, mostly because they always assume I have enough. I work in fintech, remote job, decent salary, low expenses. So when mom looked at me over mashed potatoes and said, Eli, sweetie, you'd help us make it special, right? It wasn't really a question. I'd helped before, covered Chloe's deposit when she flunked out of her first college and wanted to try a second. Helped Matt and his wife put a down payment on their first place. Bought my parents a new washer and dryer last year when theirs finally gave out. They never asked outright, just hinted and let the guilt do the rest. So, I said yes. I told them I'd cover the venue and catering, maybe even a string quartet if they wanted one. It added up fast, $12,800 in deposits, invoices, and my own time spent coordinating it all. The caterer knew me by name. The venue manager and I exchanged more emails than I have with my boss. I even helped Chloe design digital invites on Canva. Not once did I think to ask if I'd be on the guest list. 2 weeks before the party, I realized something weird. I hadn't received an invite. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I asked Chloe casually, hey, what email address did you use for the RSVP form? She blinked at me. Oh. Mom told me not to send you one. Said it'd be better that way. I thought you knew. My heart dropped. I asked what she meant by better. Chloe looked uncomfortable. She said you just, stand around like always. Not talk to anyone. Maybe make people feel awkward. I guess she thought it'd be less pressure for you. She tried to pass it off like they were doing me a favor. Like excluding me from the event I paid for was some sort of kindness. I didn't say anything then. I just went home, sat in silence, and stared at my laptop. I clicked through the spreadsheets, the email chains, the bank transfers. My name was all over the back end of this event, but nowhere on the front. That's when the anger crept in. Not hot and explosive like Matt's temper tantrums, not shrill like mom's passive-aggressive texts. No, mine came in like a tide pulling out. Quiet, methodical, and with it came a thought I couldn't shake. They think I'm invisible? Let's see what happens when I actually disappear. Still, I wanted to be sure. I waited. I watched. I gave them another chance to include me. Maybe it was a miscommunication. Maybe they'd mention me in the group chat. Maybe there'd be a last-minute invite or a hey, we messed up. But the chat filled with photos of decorations, messages about table layouts, mom's allergic to lilies, remember? All of it like I didn't exist. The final confirmation came the night before the party. I stopped by to drop off the last payment receipt for the string quartet. I handed it to my dad while he was in the backyard, admiring the setup of rented chairs. He didn't even look up. Appreciate it, he muttered. It's been less stressful without you getting in the way. I froze. He added, almost as an afterthought, we figured you'd just make it weird. People don't know you. You're not really the social type. I said nothing, not even a blink. Just turned around and walked out. That's when the real planning began. The caterers? I called them first. Canceled the order. Explained calmly that the client, me, had changed the date. Refund issued minus a small fee, which was worth every cent. Next was the venue. I had made the deposit under my name, using my email. I explained I'd no longer be transferring it over to the event coordinator. My mom had introduced no signed release, no balance payment. Done. Lights? Sound system? Same thing. All of it set up under my contracts, my accounts, my dollars. All of it yanked away. It wasn't personal, I told the vendors. It was just business. By morning, I was gone. I had booked myself a beachfront Airbnb 3 hours away, ordered a box of my favorite pastries, and brought a portable speaker to blast a playlist I made just for the occasion. I called it Better Without Me. Around 4 p.m., I knew the party would be in full swing. That's when the text started. Matt texted, "Dude, what's going on? There's no food here." Chloe texted, "Did you forget to confirm the music? Nothing's working and Mom's losing it." Then came the call from my mom. 3 of them, actually, followed by a text. "Where are you? What did you do?" I didn't reply. I sipped my coffee, turned my phone off, and watched the sun dip toward the water. In the distance, my email notifications had already started pinging, refund confirmations, thank you notes from vendors who sympathized with my unforeseen cancellation. Meanwhile, I imagined the scene unfolding. Trays of hors d'oeuvres vanishing mid-service, the string quartet never arriving, the lights slowly fading as the backup generator cut, guests standing awkwardly, waiting for something, anything, to happen. And right then, I pictured my mom's face, tight-lipped fury dressed up in pearls and disappointment. I could see her standing in the center of the darkening tent, trying to plaster on a smile while whisper yelling into her phone, demanding answers that wouldn't come. My dad would be pacing, blaming everyone but himself, while guests began to murmur, then leave. Matt would probably be sulking somewhere with a beer, and Chloe, poor Chloe, would be caught between pretending this was all fine and trying not to burst into tears. And me? I was lounging on a deck chair, barefoot, listening to waves crash softly against the shore. I hadn't felt this peaceful in years, but I didn't plan to disappear forever. Not yet. That night, I powered my phone back on for a single hour, long enough to watch the chaos unfold in real time. The family group chat had exploded. It was like watching a live feed of a burning ship where the crew was too busy blaming each other to grab a life vest. Mom texted, "Who canceled the catering?" Matt texted, "This is embarrassing. My friends left." Dad texted, "Eli, if this is some stupid joke, grow up and fix it." Now, Chloe texted, "Did you seriously pull everything? You didn't even say anything." Mom again, just 10 minutes later, "People are leaving. I hope you're happy." Happy? No, I wasn't happy. Not yet. But I felt something better. I felt seen. Finally. What none of them understood was this wasn't about revenge. Not really. It wasn't about being petty or vindictive. This was me drawing a line. For years, I've been the silent supporter, the one behind the scenes keeping things stitched together while they trampled through life assuming I'd always be there, quietly picking up the slack. And now that I'd stepped away, not yelling, not burning bridges, just stepping back, the whole show fell apart. I spent the next day completely off-grid. No texts, no emails, no phone. Just me, a rented kayak, and a stack of paperbacks I'd been meaning to read since last summer. When I came back to my Airbnb that evening, I found 37 missed calls, 24 voicemails, and a couple of attempted FaceTime requests. One voicemail stood out. It was my mom's voice, shaking and furious. "I cannot believe you would do this to your own family, Eli. After everything we've done for you. People think we're a joke now. Do you understand that? A joke. This was supposed to be our day. We trusted you. You embarrassed us." That line, "after everything we've done for you," played over and over in my head. Like it was a favor they hadn't already collected on 10 times over. Like I hadn't paid my dues with interest. I didn't call back. I didn't need to. The message had already been delivered. But Chloe showed up. On the third morning, there was a knock at the door. I opened it expecting maybe a property manager, but there she was, standing on the porch, hair messy, bags under her eyes, looking like she hadn't slept since the lights went out. "Can I come in?" I hesitated, but stepped aside. We sat on opposite sides of the couch, the silence between us heavier than I expected. "Finally," she said, "they're freaking out. Dad's yelling at everyone. Mom's acting like you ruined her life. Matt told her you probably did it because you were jealous of the attention." I snorted at that. Chloe looked at me for a long time. Was it revenge? No, I said honestly. It was the only way to make them notice. She nodded slowly. "Well, they noticed. Believe me." Another pause. "I didn't mean to exclude you, Eli. I always go along with what Mom says. It's easier. Until it isn't," I said, watching her face shift with guilt. "Yeah," she murmured. "Until it isn't." She left an hour later, saying she didn't blame me. She even thanked me, quietly, for showing her how fake it all was. But that didn't stop the fallout. By the next day, I was getting texts from extended relatives, an uncle who hadn't talked to me in a year asking what really happened. A cousin saying, "Heard you pulled a Houdini, respect." A couple even sent laughing emojis over screenshots of mom's Facebook post, which read, "Some people only want to watch the world burn. So sad when it's your own child." That post got 3 likes. One from Matt, one from an old church friend, one from a neighbor who probably thought it was about a dog. It took another 2 weeks before my dad finally reached out. No apology, just a terse message. "Let's talk. Be a man." I stared at it for a while before replying with a single sentence, "I was a man when I paid for your party." His response? Silence. Total silence. And honestly, I could live with that. But what none of them knew, what no one knew, was that I wasn't done yet. See, there was one more deposit I hadn't pulled. A final parting gift I had decided to leave in place, for dramatic effect. A special detail that hadn't hit yet, but within about 3 days. Because in exactly 72 hours, a very formal notice was going to arrive at their door. And when it did, I pictured the scene down to the smallest detail. The envelope would be crisp, with a bold return address from the law firm I occasionally retained for contract consulting. Nothing aggressive, no lawsuit or threats. Just a formal letter outlining a full cost breakdown of the party. Every invoice, every transfer, every payment, all attached with a line at the bottom stating, "Due to a breach of implied agreement, all contributions toward the July 6th anniversary event are considered revoked. Full reimbursement requested by the end of the month." It was written in professional, airtight legal language. I didn't expect them to pay it back, not really. That wasn't the point. The point was to send a message, "I am not your wallet." Not anymore. The reaction came faster than I expected. Less than 24 hours after the letter was delivered, I got a voice message from my dad. No introduction, no preamble. Just, "This is harassment, Eli. If you think we're going to let you bully us into paying you back for your own choices, you're insane." That was followed by another message, this one from Mom, but her tone was very different. It started cold, then slowly cracked as she tried to manipulate her way through the fallout. "Eli, sweetheart, I don't know why you're doing this. You've always helped us. We're family. Isn't that what matters? You're being so cruel. People are talking, and it's hurting all of us." No apology. Just an emotional guilt trip wrapped in gaslighting. But what really struck me was the very end of her message. "You used to be such a sweet boy, always trying to please everyone. What happened to you?" I stared at my phone for a long time after that one. I almost laughed. What happened to me? They happened. Years of being treated like an afterthought. Years of conditional affection, where love was measured in dollars and silence. Years of showing up, paying up, and shutting up. That's what happened. I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded the message to Chloe, who responded with 3 words, "Don't cave. Ever." That meant more than I expected. Out of all of them, she was the only one who even tried to understand. She wasn't innocent, she'd played her part, too, but she was the first to admit it. And unlike the others, she hadn't doubled down when the spotlight turned on. The next week was quiet, suspiciously quiet. No more messages. No more attempted calls. Just radio silence. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. I wasn't naive. This family didn't go silent out of acceptance. They were regrouping, planning, probably calling everyone they could to get validation for their side of the story. And right on cue, the Facebook smear campaign began. It started small. A cryptic post from Mom. "Some children repay love with cruelty. May God heal those who've lost their way." Then another from Dad. "Funny how the people who say family first are always the first to betray you." Their friends, mostly from church or Dad's old work buddies, chimed in with sympathy, none of them knowing the full story. Just parroting their version of it, where I was the cold-hearted son who ruined the anniversary out of spite. That should have made me angry. Instead, it just confirmed what I already knew. They would never take accountability. They would twist the narrative however they needed to avoid looking in the mirror. But what they didn't expect was for me to speak up. For years, I kept my mouth shut to keep the peace. But this time, I broke the silence. I posted once. Just once. A long, calm message, not even public. Just a single comment in response to my mom's post, visible only to family and mutual friends. It read, "Since we're sharing family lessons, here's one. Don't exclude the person who paid for your party. Don't tell them they make people uncomfortable and then expect them to keep smiling and writing checks. For 29 years, I've played the quiet role. You didn't notice when I was there, but you sure noticed when I wasn't. That's not cruelty. That's clarity. And I don't regret it." Then I logged out. A few cousins liked it. An aunt even messaged me privately saying, "I always wondered why they treated you like the help." But the core family, the four of them, said nothing. No clapback. No defense. Just silence. I think that stung more than anything else I could have said. But the storm wasn't over. That weekend, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail. But something made me pick up. A tired voice greeted me, deep, raspy, unmistakably familiar. It was my grandfather, my mom's father, a man who rarely spoke, never interfered, and stayed well outside the drama of his daughter's circus of a household. He didn't say much. Just, Eli, I heard what happened. I want you to come by. Just you. I hesitated. I hadn't seen him in over a year. He'd never once taken sides in anything. For him to reach out meant something was shifting. So I went. And when I stepped into his living room, he looked at me for a long time before nodding toward a chair. Then he said, I knew this day would come. That's when he handed me something, an envelope. Not a check. Not a letter. It was a copy of a legal document. I read the first line, and my heart almost stopped. Amendment to Living Trust, Executor, Elijah David Rowe. I blinked. Once. Twice. My mouth opened to speak, but nothing came out. Grandpa leaned forward, resting his hands on his cane. I've been watching for a long time, he said quietly. How your mother treats you. How Rick speaks to you like you're a burden. You think I didn't notice? I may be old, but I'm not blind. I swallowed hard, still staring at the paper. He went on, your cousins have their own messes. Your siblings have grown entitled. Your parents, well, I love my daughter, but she's got poison in her when it comes to appearances and power. You, though? You work. You give. And when you're hurt, you don't scream. You act. That's the kind of man I trust. He gestured at the folder in my lap. That document makes you executor of my trust. Power of attorney, healthcare proxy, all of it. When I pass, it's you who decides where it goes. That includes the house, the stocks, the retirement fund, and yes, the land in Brevard. The land in Brevard wasn't just a plot of dirt. It was 47 acres of untouched green space near a national park, appraised at over $1 million last I heard. My mom used to talk about it like it was her birthright. She once told Chloe that the land was our family's future. I looked up slowly. Why now? Grandpa's face tightened. Because I was waiting to see who would step up. Who would do right by family even when family didn't deserve it. And you did. You funded their party. You protected your boundaries. And when they humiliated you, you didn't go nuclear. You went quiet. Calculated. That's the man I want holding the reins when I'm gone. I sat there for a full minute, numb. My fingers were still gripping the edge of the folder like it might disappear if I let go. Finally, I found my voice. They're going to hate this. He chuckled. Good. Maybe hate will wake them up. Or maybe it won't. Either way, they'll know they're not in charge anymore. I left his house with the envelope still in my hands, my thoughts spinning in 1,000 directions. Not because I cared about the money, truthfully, I didn't. I had my own job, my own life. But because for the first time, someone in the family chose me. Not because I was convenient. Not because I kept the lights on. But because I was right. The fallout began 3 days later. It started with a phone call from my mother, which I didn't answer. Then she texted, "What is this about Grandpa's will? You can't be serious." I didn't reply. 10 minutes later, Matt chimed in, "You really stooped this low? Manipulating an old man just to get land and money? Jesus, Eli." Then Chloe, surprisingly gentle, "I heard from Mom. Is it true? He gave you everything?" I answered only her. I didn't ask for anything. He made the choice. Ask him. The next 48 hours were pure chaos. I got word from Grandpa's attorney that my mom had called twice, screaming and demanding to see the paperwork. She claimed elder abuse, said I had influenced her father, even hinted at contesting the trust. The attorney, a stern, silver-haired woman named Sharon, shut it down cold. She has no standing, she told me on a call. Your grandfather made this decision 6 months ago. He just didn't tell anyone until now. 6 months ago. That meant he'd made this choice before the party debacle. Before the final straw had even broken the camel's back. I suddenly remembered a Thanksgiving dinner the year prior. How Grandpa had sat next to me while everyone else was bickering. How he'd quietly asked about my work, my life, my goals. I'd answered honestly, thinking nothing of it. That conversation had lasted maybe 15 minutes. Apparently, it changed everything. Word spread quickly through the family. A cousin from Arizona messaged me just to say, "Wow, didn't see that coming." Chloe called and left a voicemail. She sounded more sad than angry. I guess this means we're on different sides now. I hope that's not true. Matt, predictably, posted a vague tweet about greedy backstabbers in the family. My mom made a Facebook post with a Bible verse and a photo of her and Grandpa from 1996, captioned, "Even the purest hearts can be tricked by serpents." I didn't respond. I didn't post. I didn't explain. Because I didn't have to. I had already said what needed to be said, not with words, but with action. But there was one final thing I needed to do. 2 weeks after the documents were delivered and the dust had mostly settled, I drove back to the old neighborhood. Not to the family house. That bridge was burned, and I had no desire to cross the ashes. I went to the venue where their anniversary party was supposed to happen. The tent was gone. The lights were packed up. But the manager, Carla, still worked the front desk. She smiled when she saw me. "I figured you'd show up eventually," she said. I handed her a small envelope. Inside was a check, my final payment. I told her to keep it. Use it for another client. Donate it. I didn't care. "You could have made this real ugly," she said quietly. "I've seen people lose it over less." I nodded. I thought about it. "Then why didn't you?" I looked out across the empty lawn, the breeze stirring the trees. Because they already lost more than I ever could have taken from them. Then I turned, got back in my car, and drove home. Months passed. The silence from my parents became permanent. They didn't try to reach out again. Not after the legal route failed. Not after word got out that the trust was airtight. Not after they realized that every door they'd walked through with me, every favor, every dollar, every time they said, "just this once," had now swung shut behind them. Matt and I haven't spoken since his angry rant. Chloe and I keep in loose touch. We exchange texts now and then, but there's distance. I think she's still struggling to figure out whose side she's really on. I don't blame her. That house raised her too. As for me, I moved. Not far, just out of the shadows. I found a quiet place overlooking the water, with space to breathe. I still work my same job. Still take long walks on the weekend. Still enjoy the silence. But now the silence isn't about being excluded. It's about peace. Real peace. The kind that doesn't beg for approval or recognition. The kind that comes from knowing you stood up, not just to your family, but to the version of yourself that once believed their love was something to be earned with sacrifice. It wasn't. It never was. And now that I've finally stopped giving, they finally saw my worth. Too late. But I saw it. And that's enough.